Okay, we're going to start the sloper production today. We are using our same text, Pattern Making for Fashion Design, the 5th edition. We will be referencing chapter 3, which is the step-by-step drafting of the sloper. You can reference chapter 2 to help you with the measurements that are needed. This goes through all of those points on the form that we use to measure so that we can start to draft our sloper set. Remember that while we're working through chapter 3, there are some numbers there. Those can be used in chapter 2 to reference those points. So if you're looking for, I want to know something like your full length, which is number 6 here, you can look for number 6. It'll take you to full length, and it tells you that it's the waist to shoulder at neck, parallel with center lines. So really easy if you're getting a little bit confused on where those measurements are found. You can also see my previous videos on measuring the dress form. This is a nice handy standard measurement chart. It can be found on page 36 of the text. This is really helpful to kind of double check your measurements when you're using the form. Standard size 6 through 18. You can also use this to draft a sloper set of any of these sizes since all the measurements are also given. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna draft my size 8. I'm gonna use chapter 3. I'm going through, and again, step by step, it gives me those instructions. I have my measurements that are taken here from the form, and I have them plotted here on the page as well. So what I'm going to start with is I'm going to start with my first measurement that it's asking for. It's asking me for my full length. That was the one, the number 6 there that I referenced just a second ago. That's going to be the longest part of the torso in the front. So that's going to be my first measurement, and that is 17 1/4 for me, but they want me to add 1/8 of an inch there. So mine is going to be 17 3/8 of an inch. So I'm going to start by making a line. I can use either my quilting ruler here, or if it's easier, you can use your L square. Either one really works. I'm going to go ahead and use my L square since it's a little bit longer. I apologize if the tip of my draft is a little out of frame. I'll try to get it all in here for you. Okay, so that's just a really long line, longer than I need, I'm sure, but it's going to help me to start drafting. Okay, I'm going to make just a crosshair up here just so I can start to plot my A. So as you look here, you can see that A is up at the top. Let me just go ahead and get rid of those markings there. I'm going to label that as A. And again, I'm going to go 17 3/8 of an inch down, which is essentially almost the length of my quilting ruler. So 17 3/8, 1, 2, 3/8 there. And that is how long, that's the longest my bodice front will be. So hopefully that fits right into the frame. Okay, so I have a crosshair at the top, crosshair at the bottom, and I'm going to label this B. Okay, now the second draft is to do A to C, which you can see here is the across the shoulder measurement. And I want me to take away 1/8 of an inch from that, less 1/8. So my measurement is 7 5/8. I'm going to take away 1/8. So I'm going to have 7 1/2 as my across the shoulder measurement, which is going to run perpendicular to center front. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to draw a line out before I measure, just so I can get a nice perfect perpendicular line there. And again, I'm going to want 7 1/2 inches total, and I'll make a crosshair. So I'm looking at 7 1/2 here. I'm going to go ahead and cross mark, and I'm going to label this here as C. Now this is a right angle. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to label that so I know everything that's perfectly perpendicular and parallel. Okay, now that I have my across the shoulder, I'm going to go ahead and continue where it says to square a 3-inch line down from C. So again, there's my C line. I'm going to square 3 inches down, and I'm going to make another mark Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and make a kind of infinitely long line, and then I'm gonna measure out 3 inches there. Make a point, and then I'm gonna cross mark here. And again, I'm gonna label that as a right angle. I'm gonna remove any of the excess down there that I don't need, and then I'm gonna keep on moving. Okay, now I'm gonna do B to D, which is my center front length. This is the one that comes from the hollow of the neck to the waist. So that's gonna be right directly on your A to B line. D is gonna land a little bit lower since this is a shorter measurement. So my center front length is 14.5. So I'm going to go ahead and measure 14.5 inches. Again, working from B at the bottom up. So start here at 14.5. And then I'm gonna make a line here. And I'm just gonna crosshair that. And that's gonna give me my D. This is a right angle here as well. And then it lets me know that it wants me to mark and square out 4 inches. So I'm gonna square out 4 inches from D. Okay, making sure that that's all straight. I'm gonna go 1, 2, 3, and 4. Make a point there. And I'm just gonna end it with a tiny crosshair again. This just helps me to know where that line ends. Okay. Now we're gonna go ahead and continue. We're gonna do B to E, which is going to be along the bottom, the width of my sloper down here. That's gonna be my bust arc measurement plus 1/4 inch. Now my bust arc measurement is 9 3/4. I'm gonna add 1 inch to that, so it's gonna be a solid 10. So that's gonna be squared out from B. And then they're telling me that they want me to square up 11 inches from E. So again, from the bottom measurement E, I'm gonna go exactly 10 inches out. I'm gonna go ahead and use my very bottom of the paper here. Hoping that you're still in frame. Okay, and right to the very tip of my quilting ruler. And then again, I'm gonna make a small crosshair because I know that they're gonna want me to draw this line up in a second, but I'm just gonna make a little cross mark so that I can label this as E. And then I'm going to mark these as right angles. Okay, now, like it says, I'm going to square out from B, label E, and then square up from E 11 inches. So I'm gonna go ahead and work my way up perfectly parallel to center front, 11 inches. And again, just a very small crosshair so that I know where that 11 inches ends. Okay, so if you're looking here, hopefully you can see it. It's dark enough for you. We've got the outline of our front sloper. We've got our shoulder point. We've got an area where our armhole's about, where it would end. We've got our full length, so the longest part of our front, our center front length where it would dip for our neckline, and then we have our waist, or the beginning of our waist down here. Okay, I'm going to continue with my shoulder slope. I'm going to do my B to G, which is a diagonal measurement there. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm knocking the camera. So B to G shoulder slope plus 1/8 inch. I'm looking at 17 3/8, so it's going to be 17.5 inches. And to do this, I need to create a hinge. So it's letting me know that G touches the C line. So I'm going to go from B. Again, it's going to be a diagonal measurement. I'm going to use this point as my hinge. I need to make a measurement at 17.5 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and hold down my 17.5 down here. And again, I'm going to utilize this quilting roller to hinge so that the end of the quilting roller lands on the C line. And I'm going to draw that in. And that is my shoulder slope. Okay. All the way here. And then I can label this as G. Again, it landed on that C line and that mark that they had me go down 3 inches. Okay, now I'm gonna do my G to H. My G to H is going to be my bust depth, how low from that shoulder point my bust point lands. So my bust depth is 9 5/16, and it's telling me that I'm gonna mark it on the B to G line. So the B to G, it's gonna land here. So from the very top, I'm gonna work my way down, and I'm gonna go 9 5/16 of an inch from G. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, that's a little small measurement there, and I'm going to label that as H. Okay, now my G to I, so that is going to create my shoulder there. So my shoulder length is 5 3/16. I'm going to go ahead and plot that. And it tells me here that I want to square down from I to intersect with the D after I plot my G to I, my shoulder length. So 5 3/16. And that's going to run along. I'm just going to move these out of the way a little so I can hinge my 5 3/16 so that it lands on this line here. A little more, right about there. Okay. So G to I, that's giving me my new shoulder. Okay. Now it's telling me that they want me to square down from I, so creating a squared line down to intersect with the D line. Here's that D line that they had me pivot out. What they want me to do is they want me to take the ruler and they want me to square it. So I'm just using one of my small lines here on my quilting ruler, and I'm going to bring the line I down so that it touches D, and then I'm going to indicate here that this is a squared line. That doesn't mean here that this is squared, it just means that I use G and I use the across the shoulder here to pivot to find my I placement. Now that I have my I placement, they're telling me that they want me to square down. These lines here are squared, nothing else is. Okay, that should, I can get that nice shape of my neckline. Okay, now I'm working on my bust span. So my J to K is going to run through my center front to my bust. So J to K bust span plus 1/4 inch. Mine is 3 3/4, so I'm going to add 1/4 inch to that. So mine is going to be 4 even. And it tells me square from J at center front through H to K. So what that means is they want me to use the H line. They want me to run my ruler square across the H line. And then what you can do too at this point is you can make a line however long, an infinitely long line. So that's just kind of a given line so that I know that this is squared. And then again, what they're saying is that my J to my K, which will land over here somewhere, squares out from center front through H to K. So it's probably going to pass here. Again, mine is 3 3/4 plus 1/4 inch. So mine's going to be 4 inches exactly. So using that 1, 2, 3, and 4, my K is going to land just about a 1/2 inch away from my H. And I'm just using this to kind of make a perfect little dot right there. This is my K now. Okay, so my K goes past, my H stays here, my H again, that's going to be my my bust placement there for my bust level. Okay, now I'm working on my D to L. My D to L is going to help me to eventually make my armhole. And so D to L is 1/2 of D to J. So that's a measurement that, oh, and I'm sorry, I'm going to plot my J right here. That's a measurement that I have to take. So it's not something that's given. It's not something that I measured off of the form. I have to measure D to J, and then I have to divide that by 2. So I'm going to go ahead and measure here. I'm looking at, it's 7 1/8 1/8. So I'm looking at 7 1/8. Half of that would be 3 1/2 plus 1/16. So I'm looking at 3 9/16. Okay, so 3 9/16 will be right in between these 2 points, and that's going to be labeled as L. So let me go ahead and plot 3 9/16. So there's 8 and 1 more 9. Okay, so again, I'm going to crosshair this, cross mark, and that is L. Okay, now that I have my D to my L, now it says mark, now mark down from D to make the L. Okay, now it wants me to make my across the chest, my L to M. So that's going to run across the body of the front. And my measurement is 6 5/8. Then I'm going to add 1/4 of an inch to that. So I'm looking at 7 and actually I'm going to do the math down here so I don't mess up. Plus 1/4 of an inch. So I'm looking at 2/8. So 6 7/8. Okay, so just shy of 7 inches. So 6 7/8 is going to be my across the shoulder, and that's going to be squared up, and it's going to be squared from the center front. Go ahead and I'm just going to make a perfectly squared line across, and then I'll measure. So perfectly squared line there, just so that again I can indicate those are all squared. And again, mine is going to be 6 7/8 from L. So working my way out, 6 7/8. And I'm just going to cross mark that. And this is going to be my M right here. Okay, now it's asking me to square a line up and down from M. And it doesn't tell me how long they want it. They just need me to go ahead and mark up and down from M. That's going to help me again to create the shape of my armhole eventually. I'm just going to darken this line really quickly. That way you can see it there. Okay, just so you can see a little bit darker there. Okay, now that I have my across the chest, I'm getting prepared to make that armhole. Now I can work on my dart placement. This new dart placement line is going to start to create the bottom of the front here, where it's going to help me to create the dart and thus the waistline. So B to F dart placement is a given measurement on the form. Mine is 3 1/8. So again, from B across that bottom line on that E line, B to E, I'm going to go 3 1/8 of an inch. And I'm going to make a mark there. And I'm going to label that as my F, or my dart placement. Now what it says is they want me to square down 3/16 from F. So 3/16, really small little measurement. It's probably what I just went just now when I made that little crosshair. So 3/16 of an inch down from F. Again, really little tiny measurements. 1, 2, 3/16. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to crosshair this. Just a tiny, tiny little hair there so that I have it. Go ahead and do it. And I'm sorry, apologizing if I'm out of frame at all now. 3/16 there. Just the tiniest little. Okay, so just a really small measurement down there at the bottom of the form. Okay, now we're already moving on to the second portion of this. So I'm going to put this a little bit higher. Hopefully this is still in frame view. I apologize that it's a little sideways. Okay, so now we're working on figure 3, page 41, moving on to the second portion of the slipper front. Okay, the new strap. So the new strap again is a measurement that I've taken off of my dress form. Mine is 17 3/8, and they're asking me to add 1/8 of an inch. So I'm going to go ahead and plot 17 1/2 inches, and that is I to N. Now I to N is telling me I have an I here. I know that my I is at the very top of the form. Now I'm going to be plotting my new N line, my end point. And it tells me that draw the line from I to intersect with E. Okay, if I go back down here, oh, I see I have my I point is at the very, very tip of my sloper. My E is all the way down here at the bottom of my sloper. So that measurement of 17.5, again, it's going to be pretty much the entire length of my ruler almost, is going to hinge from I, and it's going to intersect with that E line. Okay, so I'm gonna be right about here. Now, if you feel like the quilting ruler is a little tight for this, because your quilting ruler is 18 inches long, this is a great time to pull out the L square. Just pull it out for you so you can see. That was really long. So, you know, if you're here and you have a measurement that's quite long, like what we were just using, I'm just gonna move this out of the way temporarily. You can go ahead and use this again to hinge, and it's gonna give you a little bit more of that length. So 17.5 down there. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mark that as N. Okay. And I'm really hoping you can see all that here in the corner. I apologize if it's a little tight. Actually, what I might do, I might just pull this over just a hair while I can. Okay. There you go. Okay. This is just going to go a little bit more sideways. Okay. Now I'm going to be working with my side length. So my N to O measurement, so the side of my sloper for my bodice is going to be a given measurement from my form, which is 8 1/4. And so I'm going to mark up from N 8 1/4, and I'm going to label that as O. I have this line that's already drawn here. Again, I cross marked that earlier. So 8 1/4. Go ahead and mark that there. I'm just gonna make a little crosshair, and I'm gonna label that as O. Okay. Now, my N to P. So, okay, I have my N here. I need to create a little bit more length or width at the bottom of my sloper, because I have to be able to fit my entire waistline in there, also including the excess of the dart. So I'm going to have to kind of hinge out from the parameters of what we have right now of the sloper so that I can get the correct waistline. And then that'll help me to be able to create the dart, which is going to give this some shapes and 3 dimensions to it. So that P is going to sit outside of the given area of the form right now. N to P, mark 1/4 of an inch out from N. There's a little asterisk there. So if you're looking for that little asterisk, if you come down here, it tells you here that best cup formula for test fitting. So if you have a cup larger than a B, which is the standard that we're going to work with here. So if you reference back here at the beginning, and I don't think you can see that, sorry. Up here, it tells you that the standard draft is based on a Mrs. dress form with a bust cup of B in all sizes. So what that means is that if you have a larger bust, you're going to want to go ahead and you're going to want to use this chart down here, and you're going to want to add a little bit more to that or a little bit less to that. You're going to be moving around depending on if you're C, D cup, you know, the different options there. And then again, for more information, you can go to page 44, and there's more information on the larger cup sizes. Again, we're working off of a dress form here, so the cup is going to be pretty standard B. So I'm just going to go ahead and use my 1 1/4 out from N. So 1 1/4 out, and I'm going to mark that as my P. Now, it doesn't tell me necessarily what that, if it's a line, they don't tell me what it is. They just want me to mark out from N 1 1/4 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and I'll just draw that 1 1/4 inches. But really, it's this point here that is the P. And I hope that that's in frame for you still. Which, yeah, looks like it is. Okay. Now, underneath it, there's another note. Personal fit, see the formula or adjust after the draft is complete. Tab, page 44. And that's, again, more information on different cup sizes. Okay, O to P. So my O to P is equal to the side length line is directed to P. So remember, we had our side length. We know what our side length is. It's a given measurement here. So side length line is directed to P and ends when equal to N to O. So N to O, it's directed to P, meaning that these are the same, but it hinges so that it touches this area in where P lands. and ends when equal to P to O. Sorry, draw a line from P to F. So then after, we'll draw a line in a minute. So, a little bit confusing. Again, it asked me to go 1.25 inches away from N, and I'm going to draw some light lines. So it just said 1.25 inches away. I'm just going to draw a line there because it doesn't necessarily tell me if they want me to plot a line or what they want me to do. They want that P to be my indication of where O is going to hinge. So they want my O to P to be equal to my O to N. Okay, so side length is directed to P and ends when equal to, N to O. My N to O was 8.25. So if I am here at O and I'm hinging, and I'm going to use the 1 mark here on it so it's a little easier. I'm going to go to 8.25 and ends on P. And so I'm looking, this is about right here. And there we go. Oops. Sorry, just making sure that it's precise. Okay. Okay, and here's my plot line here. So just slightly higher, my P is here. Again, I want the measurement from my N to O to be the same as my O to P. And I'm just having it aim towards this area where my P lands. Okay, once I have that point, now it's telling me that they want me to draw a line from P to F. So it's going to be, again, it's just this mark here that's a little bit over where my N stuck out. And my F is a little bit under the very bottom of my sloper so far. So I'm going to go ahead and connect those 2 points. Oops. I'm going to redo that one again. Sorry about that. Okay, sorry, I'm trying to make sure you can still see this in frame. Okay, now I'm starting to get that bottom of my sloper ready for the dart. Okay, we're moving into figure 4 down here. It's completing the waist measurement. Okay, so my P to Q now. Now I'm going to create a new point, which is going to be my waist arc. So my P to Q is part of my waist measurement. It's going to be broken by the dart, and then the rest of my waist measurement continues from this F to B. So P to Q, waist arc, plus 1/4 inch for ease, and then it says less B to F. So my waist arc is, my given measurement for my waist arc is 6 7/8. Okay. Plus they want me to add 1/4 inch for ease. So now I'm looking at 7 1/8 of an inch. Okay. But then they want me to remove, so then it says less, so subtract my B to F. So my B to F measurement. So I'm going to go ahead and measure my B to F. And that is about 3 1/8. So I'm looking at 3 1/8. So if I subtract those, it leaves me with 4 inches exactly. So my P to Q should be exactly 4 inches. And again, you just kind of want to follow step by step, making sure that you're abiding by their additions, by their subtractions. You know, if you're plotting in between, halfway in between, you're going to divide. So this is one of those ones that it's really important that you take those individual measurements so that you can now create that excess of that dart. Okay, now it says my dart legs. It wants me to draw a line from K, which is, again, my plot here along the bust level. So from K to F, and that's the line that drops just below the bottom of the sloper. And then they want me to draw a leg from K through Q, or to Q, or sorry, from K through Q equal to K to F. So what they want is they want to make sure that the legs are of equal length. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to draw this real quick, and then I'll use my ruler to measure it. So going from K to F, which is kind of a little below, 3/16 of an inch below the sloper. Okay, so my K to F, I'll lower that there, and then I'm going to go ahead and measure that. That is, it's 7.5, 7 and 1, 2, 3, so 7 and 11/16. So 7 and 11/16. They want me to now take 7 and 11/16, and they want me to plot my K through my Q. Okay, so it might land a little bit lower than my Q. I'm going to move my Q just over to the side so that when I plot that line, it doesn't run into that letter. So I'm looking at 7 and 11/16. So from my point here at the top, 7 and 11/16. So 8, 9, 10, and 11. So just a little low. It landed right where my Q was before. Okay. Now what that tells me is that when if I were to go to sew this up, if these were my dart legs that I was going to sew, they would be the same. They would create a perfect dart for me. If this line were longer or if this line were shorter, then I would have an issue when it comes to the construction and the sewing of that dart. So it's very important that those two dart legs are this exact same length. And that's why it may pass through your Q, depending on your draft. Okay. They want me to label this as R, this new past Q line here. Okay, now they're saying my dart point. They want me to center a point 5/8 of an inch from the bust point, and they want me to come down and redraw my legs to this point from F and R. So I have my K line, which is right there on the bust level, so that's my bust point. Now they want me to create my dart point. So I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of darken that so that it's a circle, my bust point. And they're saying, find a point centered, so right in between the two of those. And they want you to go 5/8 of an inch down between the two. And they want you to make a point here. This now becomes, and I'm just gonna make a little line to it. This is now my dart point. Okay. This is still my bust point. And this is still my bust level. Okay, just some little notes so you have an idea there. Now they're saying that they want me to redraw my leg from F to the dart point and from R to the dart point. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, and my R. Okay, now I have my dart legs. Okay, now draw a slight curved line from B to F and R to P. So I have my B to F measurement down here where there's no line that connects them. So they want me to draw a slightly curved line. And they're also asking me this R to P measurement, again, where there's nothing really connecting them right now, slightly curved. So I would say that it would be best for you to use either your hip curve or your variform curve. And again, it's asking the line to not be too curved, slightly curved there. So I'm going to run the ruler to a place where it's not going to take too much away or add too much to the curvature of that. And this is going to be my slightly curved line from B to F. That's now the bottom of my form. I'm going to do the same thing, R to P. I might have to go a little more curvy on this one, but again, not much. Not adding too much shape to the bottom of that there. Okay. Now I'm going to need to pull out my French curve because now we're working into figure 5. So figure 5 is this area here where we're going to finish off the neck and the armhole. For the armhole, it's telling me draw the armhole curve with rule touching G, so I have my G line, or my G point here, M, and the square line, the lines that have been squared up and down from M. Do not follow the curve past the square line. So like you can see here in the draft, they want me to use my French curve. They want me to start it on the G. They want it to touch the M, but they don't want it to bypass this squared line. They don't want it to push into the figure. So you're just gonna have to walk that French curve down so that it touches those points. And they're asking me also down here that it'll eventually land on O. So draw the armhole curve with the rule touching G, M, and the square line. Do not follow curve past the square line. So I can see here that the tip of their curve is also running here to O. Now, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start with the ruler a little bit higher up so that I can abide by the instructions of the M and the G, not passing the squared line. It's going to give me the top of that armhole curve. And then I'm just going to work my ruler up so that I can finish off the bottom of the form here and do my O. Now the only thing that I'm looking at here is that I don't have a point squared out from my O, and I think I may have skipped a step here. I just want to backtrack if I did miss any of this here. My O to P, side length, draw a line to F, complete the waist start. You know, these are the measurements that are in the given form. It should be squared. So what I'm going to do, because I know that there's a squared line indicated here, what I'll do is I'm going to square a line from this PO line, and I'm sorry if I skipped that step, but we'll go ahead and prepare that. So squaring again off of O to P, I'm gonna make a line, and it's just kind of infinitely long, doesn't need to be a specific length, but this is going to be squared here. So just so I have that there, sorry, so that once I get down here to figure 5, I can use the French curve and it can land on that line. So apologies that I didn't get that in there earlier. So what I'm gonna do, again, I'm just kind of walking my French curve to a comfortable location where the G, the M, and the O can all kind of sit together. It is sitting above the M line a little bit, and that's okay. I just want to make sure that I don't go past the O and that I don't go past this squared line here. So I'm gonna go ahead and use the curve all in one. Oh, I apologize for moving the camera. And I'm just gonna connect these. The curve all the way around. Okay, so now I have my armhole curve there, and I was able to just use my French curve as is. Okay, now I'm just gonna remove this one. It's a little easier to see. Now I'm gonna finish off my neckline. So they're asking me to draw a curve from I to D, passing inside the angle line by 1/8 of an inch. So what I can do, here's this angle line that they're referencing. They want me to hit it at 1/8 of an inch. So I'm just gonna grab my French curve real quick. And I'm just gonna draw a really light line here at 1/8 of an inch, because I know that when I set my French curve down, like it's illustrated, that I'm gonna have my I touching the curve, my D touching the curve, and it's not gonna go past that 1/8 of an inch. And that there is where I'm gonna draw my new curve. And again, I don't need all of that anymore, so I'm just gonna get that out of there so it makes it a little easier for the eyes. And that's essentially my sloper. So that's the draft for the front only. And as you can see, I have my center front line. I have the waist with my dart points, my dart leg, and my dart leg, sorry, my dart point. The remainder of my waist, I have my side seam, I have my armhole, I have my shoulder, and then my neckline.